Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. Mr. J. Lou G. What's going on, fellas?
Tighten up.
Well, we're back once again off a little hiatus, but so come on in and join us tonight. We got a lot to talk about on this show, and if you've been rolling with us for the last 3, 4, 5 years, you know we like to get in and talk about the drafts. And so this is our pre-draft show tonight. And fellas, there's a lot of talent out there, a lot of things to look at tonight. But so you know, the Titans come in with a lot of needs, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. A team that's looking to bring in more talent, especially on the offensive line. You know, the offensive line is aging. We talked about it a bunch with LaJuan. You know, Safo's gone, and Quisenberry left. Tight end, we still, you know, even though we picked up Austin Hooper and Jeff Swain, we signed back for his blocking. No, I'm just kidding. But more tight end depth. We need to get a number 3, a true number 3, whether it be free agency or in this draft, some more DB help, and then in particular the inside linebacker position after losing some depth there with Rashad Evans and Jayon Brown. Yeah. With 6 picks for this draft. Am I right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 picks in this upcoming draft, fellas. It's a lot to look at. And you know, the first round, do we trade back or do we draft or what do we go after? And so I'm gonna start with you, J. Lou, tonight. So let's talk about this first round for the Titans. A lot of needs. Some say quarterback, some say O-line, some say tight end. You know, what does it look like in your opinion?
This is one, Ed and G Wit, that I just keep going back and forth on. If you ask me Thursday at 6:00, I might change my mind on what I say tonight. But if I had to guess right now, I'm thinking that J-Rob is finding a trade partner to trade out of pick 26. Do not be surprised if the Titans don't make because the first round is the only round that's Thursday night, correct? Right. Yeah. So Don't be surprised if the Titans don't make a pick Thursday night. I think that, you know, we don't have a second. And if they trade out, if he trades back and tries to get a second and a third or however you package it, then I'm more sold on him probably going wide receiver / tight end with that first pick. If we stay in the 26th pick, then it'll be the third year in a row that we take an offensive lineman high. And I think that's where we're torn on the draft. So if you see him trade out, then those that have been screaming for him to get a skill position player, I think that's what you see us get if we can get a second round. And you got, you know, I would keep my eye on Detroit. Detroit, somebody I've been really researching that could be a potential, depending on how the quarterbacks and everything might fall, could be a potential trade partner to jump back in at 26. And if I'm not mistaken, they might have the 5th or 6th pick in the second round. So they get you an early second round pick where you know, somebody might like Pickens, the receiver from Georgia, or Treylon Burks, depending on, he could fall right there where you're not overpaying. Because you know what folks are learning quickly about these contracts right now. You really don't. The team controls the first round pick. Right. You know, everybody's screaming, you know, why you don't hear nothing about Big Jeff getting a contract extension right now? Well, because technically the Titans can give him the 5th-year option next year. You don't have that with the second round pick. That's why you hear everything in the news about AJ Brown right now. So you know, by trading back right there, you don't have that 5th-year commitment, which J-Rob has a history of not really committing to those first round picks anyway. But if you ask me right now, Ed, I think we trade out that 26th pick, and I wouldn't be surprised if we took either Mr. Pickens from Georgia or Trey McBride, the tight end from Colorado State, with that pick.
So, you know, G. Wood, I think that just looking at the past couple of drafts, J-Rob's got something to prove this year. Even though he had a pretty decent draft last year, but 19 has to be so far his best draft. He got 5 starters out of that draft. Yeah. AJ Brown, Jeffrey Simmons are named the biggest stars out of that draft. And so, G. Wood, what's your opinion on that first pick? Do they trade back or do they stay in and go offensive line like a lot of people think?
Well, I have to somewhat go along with the czar of the cap, man, and Mr. J. Lou, and believe that he's looking to really trade out to try to get an extra pick somehow trade out. And I agree with you. That's the first thing I thought about J. Lou was actually trading back and getting a second-round pick and getting an extra third-round pick for that 26 pick. I still think, in all honesty, the first pick is going to be an O-lineman. Because really, when you look at the Titans, and you were right as far as their needs are heaviest on the offensive side of the ball, and they need to start drafting potential starters. They cannot wait any longer drafting these projects that they've been drafting. They have got to draft potential starters for the offense because the offense is aging out. Right. Whereas the defense is still pretty young. They can draft for depth on them and go through the undrafted free agents to get added depth. But on the offensive side of the ball, they got to start drafting potential starters, those guys who they believe can come in and either start right away or are automatic, almost ready to play. So I just think that one of the things he's going to draft is an offensive lineman. I still think that's going to be their first pick. I agree with you on the second pick. I think it's going to be a receiver. However, I don't know about my boy out of Arkansas. I think really, even though I know he won't be available, one of the two receivers out of Ohio State, I really like them. But I also like the guy out of USC, London, a good blocker, very physical. And there's another guy, I can't remember his name, that was actually one of those guys who are really good at 50-50 balls. Physical receivers. And that's what they're looking for, a good physical slot receiver that can go up and get those 50-50 balls and make plays for them. And I agree. It's going to be an offensive lineman and a wide receiver.
Yeah, and I like both of those picks by you guys. And I'll say this. I saw an article today that said the Titans could be in line for a trade for Kadarius Toney from the Giants. Good slot receiver, a lot of speed. And so we'll see. That might be an option, but we'll see. I agree, though. They do trade back, but if they don't, I like the trade McBride pick. J. Lou, I was looking at him. Another guy I think they can pick up later on is Jake Ferguson out of Wisconsin, a good physical run blocker, can catch in traffic as well. Good size, 6'4", 244. And so, there's some guys out there with a lot of potential. And then, you got Trevor Penning, Northern Iowa. Now, if he falls to us, the big tackle out of Northern Iowa, and if he falls to us, man, I think we snatch him up right there in the first round if he's still there. Because you talking about a big physical lineman, and what J. Rob and Vrabel likes are the big physical, nasty players, especially on the offensive line in the tight end position. So if you can pull somebody like that at that 26, I think they stay. But if not, J. Lou and G. Wood, I think they trade out, like you guys said, and get some more draft capital, especially with Detroit sitting there with that second round pick right in that position you talked about, J. Lou. And so we all pretty much agree on that second round, that trading out of the first and going to the second. So what's the next need? We said receiver, we said tight end. Eventually they got to look at quarterback sometime.
Absolutely.
Right. And so, but the quarterback talent this year is not as much as it has been the past few years. I think next year is probably going to be the year. But, quarterback, who's out there, G. Witt, in the second round? If he's worth the second round pick.
Really, in all honesty, they're really – I'll take it like that. I'll take it back. Any of the quarterbacks that everybody is high on, they're to me, they're all late first round to second round picks. They're not top 10 picks, not to me. I mean, some of them have good arm talent. Some of them are able to make accurate throws and everything, but nobody comes with the total package that to me is worth a top 10 pick or even a top 15 pick, in all honesty. Mm-hmm. I think the quarterback class this year is a little weak. And I don't know if you draft a quarterback in the third round. If you draft a quarterback in the third round, he has to be a guy you think is going to be starting for you within the next year to 2 years, easy. Because, I've been saying I was saying before they even started Ryan Tannehill, they need to find a quarterback. And so far, all J. Rob has drafted, as far as quarterbacks are concerned, are projects that never pan out. So like I've been saying, you got to either he's going to have to find a diamond in the rough this year, or he's going to have to work some magic to get a good one next year. Now, I agree with you. The next year's class is the key class, I think, where all the talent is coming out. The only one really, like I said, you just got to, I don't know a quarterback out there that's worthy of the second round or even third round, in all honesty, to me. Unless Willis has got the strong arm. I guess you may be thinking he'll be another Josh Allen.
He could be, and but I'm gonna go back to something that Jay Lou said just a minute ago about the Lions. So who's sitting at the Lions are really high on at quarterback is Matt Corral, and that's the trade up right there. That's the trade into the first round. The first round pick of the Titans trade away to get back into the second round. But Jay Lou, and I agree with G. Witt. There's not really a quarterback out there. So if you don't go offensive line in the first round, you trade back to the second. I think you see. Maybe we grab a receiver right there in the second round with that high pick if they can get one. You're muted.
No, you're muted.
My bad. Hit the wrong button. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So I might be in the minority on this. And it's because of what you, Ed, and G. Witt both said about next year's quarterback class. Call me stupid. I think the Titans roll with Tannehill and Deion's boy, Logan Woodside. You might pick up an undrafted one or somebody to come in and be your third. And I think that John Robinson, because again, I'm looking at it from, what'd you call me, the cap czar?
The czar of the cap.
I'm looking at it from the cap standpoint. Let's think about what you've seen some of these last few teams do pretty well here recently on these Super Bowl runs, outside of the Rams that are an anomaly. They don't believe in the draft anyway, which I love. I think that's phenomenal too. But most of the teams are making their runs with rookie quarterbacks on rookie contracts before you pay them. Mm-hmm. So we already just talked about the 2019 draft class. It's got starters all up and down that you got to pay. And yes, the cap is going to explode in the next year. The next year or two. The way you get that to extend is that you pay a rookie quarterback. So I think that we don't draft a quarterback this draft, and I think they take all that and put all their eggs in the basket on the talent that's coming out next year. And you possibly could see a rookie quarterback lead this talented Titans team next year, because I just don't. Again, Matt Corral would be the one. I know they high on him, and they have been high on Sam Howell a little bit from North Carolina. Yeah. But again, I think that's to your point, and we've seen, every quarterback he's drafted has been the 6th, 7th round, who, as Deion put in the comments, have been bust. I mean, right. I don't see them wasting a 2nd or 3rd round pick on a project at that position. Offensive line is where we make projects at. Safety is where we make projects at, but not quarterback. So I wouldn't be shocked if you don't see a quarterback selected in this draft and they go more depth with O-line, receiver, or even safety, because quite as it kept, we do need to find another safety. So I think you look at that I think you see that 3rd through 5th round pick be some depth, special teams depth and depth for the team, as opposed to wasting it, quote unquote, on a quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm gonna bring this up because somebody brought it up in the chat. Desmond Ridder. Yeah, I don't have nothing against Desmond Ridder. I just don't think he's 1st or 2nd round talent. I mean, does he have a strong arm? It's okay. I don't think it's a big time arm, but I don't know if you even bring him in at this point, like you said, Jay Lou. I think there's just more talent coming out next year in the draft. I think it was Kwanye, man. Appreciate that comment about Desmond Ridder. And so even with that, you got to think about something else too, guys, that nobody's really talking about. Really, is Derrick Henry will be 29 years old.
Yeah,
at the end in this next season coming up, and you got to start thinking about what are you going to do after him, because right now we don't have a solid backup. And I'm not saying draft one early. I mean, that could be a free agent pickup. That could be an undrafted free agent. But we got to start thinking about that as well. And so some of the receivers I like it, and if they're still around, Jahan Dotson. He's a Blazer out of Penn State. Big time receiver. I really do think, guys, we go with another ACL project, Michie or Williams from Alabama. So.
I don't know, man, because I don't know about. In all honesty, I'm just a little leery about Alabama football players, man. I really am.
Oh, I understand why. Yeah.
I mean, and the main reason being, in all honesty, is simply because if you notice, there are very few, even though a lot of them get drafted, there are really very few of them that actually make a big splash in the NFL. I always said we stole one with Derrick Henry. I think people devalued him because of his size and his running style and everything. So he turned out to be more than what everybody thought he was going to be. But I mean, like with offensive linemen, linebackers, and everything, really, even defensive linemen. If you stop and think about it, man, they really don't do a whole lot when they get to the NFL. They pretty much have hit their ceiling by the time they get drafted.
Mm-hmm.
So you never really see any growth out of the position or anything like that. And that may be me being jaded because of what happened with Rashaan Evans, because I thought we had a good one in him, in all honesty. But as you saw after his second year, it was just done. Same thing. We thought we had a good one in Chance Warmack when we drafted him, and he never panned out. So I'm just a little leery about Bama players because I know how Nick Saban runs that program, and he pushes those players hard. And I just think they reach their ceiling by the time they get drafted. And what you see is what you get, and it's not going to get any better.
Right. Another name to look at, Chris Olave, Ohio State. Ohio State's got some good receivers as well.
Oh, they got excellent receivers, man.
Right. Christian Watson out of North Dakota State. Good size, good speed. There's some options out there. I think that we can find a good number 3 receiver, even if it's a rookie, right? Even if it's a rookie. And so, and so just moving on, I think too, guys, we got to get some depth. I think you see more than one pick on offensive line. This year, because you got to have some depth. Like we said, Taylor Lewan, he's how long? 10 years in, I think he is coming back this year. 9? Okay.
9, I think. Yeah, 9.
And you lost Sappho. You got Aaron Brewer coming in. You don't really have any good quality depth behind Ben Jones. I know you brought in Jones from Seattle. But the offensive line is going to be the key factor for myself. And then also getting that third receiver and another tight end. Austin Hooper, he's a good route runner. He can stretch the defense somewhere. We still need another guy that can block and that can stretch the defense.
Someone who's a more consistent blocker than Jeff Swain. And that's the key about it. Ever since we hadn't had a good blocking tight end, in all honesty, I always thought Craig Stevens was the best one we had. And I thought he was underrated as a pass catcher. But really, that's what we're missing as far as the tight end position. We just don't have a solid blocking tight end that's going to be consistent in making their blocks and everything. And I think he found a diamond in the rough with Jonnu Smith, and he turned into one. But after that, it's been a struggle to find a good blocking tight end who's actually going to be consistent with it. Because really, and I agree with you on the receiver, because our receiver depth right now, it's amazing. What was it, 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, we were talking about how good our receiver depth was in the receiver room. And the backups we got now is Dez Fitzpatrick, Racing McGrath, Cody Hollister, what's this, Mason Kinsey. We have no backups. So we're missing a lot of talent out of that, man. So that's to me, he's going to have to address that as well as the offensive line, because really you got to look at Ben Jones and Taylor Lewan is getting long in the tooth. And that's what I mean by you got to find somebody who's going to push to be a starter, and you're going to have a hard time keeping them off the field, and that's really what you need.
Exactly. And so, so we know we have to address receiver. We throw some folks out there. We got some offensive linemen we know we're going to look at. One I want to talk about real quick, guys, is Ed Ingram. I don't know if you guys have looked at this cat, but out of LSU, a guy that can play guard and tackle. So some of the stuff, if you look at him, man, they say another physical guy, right? Yeah. Another physical guy, 6'3", 315 out of LSU. Good control when he's able to control his distance and good lockout strength. So a guy that can play inside and outside, a good grade, 7.8. Mid-round to third to middle to late round. So another good quality depth pickup that could be for the Titans. And like I said, the offensive line depth this year in the draft is a lot. And so it's no reason why we couldn't get at least 2, maybe 3, especially if we're going to trade back out of the first round.
Well, I think whatever you see them choose on offensive line, whether it be 1, 2 players or whatnot, that'll give you some inkling of what they think about Dillon Raisins. Because if we draft some of these linemen that are natural guards, then to me that's a sign that they want him to focus on being the starting right tackle. Which I've been screaming for, because I think that's what the man played in college, and I know he can play a little guard or whatnot. But that's really what I'm interested in seeing is what offensive linemen, not one of the hybrids, but what offensive linemen in a natural position do they pick to kind of give you a telltale sign of where they're leaning towards trying to start Dillon off to start the year.
Right. And so, so appreciate that, guys. Again, thank you for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Come on in, get your questions, your comments in. We're talking about the draft. The draft starts this Thursday night. The Titans got 6 picks, no second round pick right now, but we all agree that that's going to probably change as we get closer, if not on draft night. And so, guys, let's take a look at the defensive side of the ball real quick, because we know we all agree that this is going to be a heavy draft, or we think it's going to be a heavy draft for the offensive side of the ball. But there are some needs on the defensive side of the ball as well. In particular, the inside linebacker position as far as depth. So anybody after Cunningham and man, my mind has slipped me.
David Long,
behind David Long, we've got to get some depth there because we lost Rashawn Evans and Jayon Brown to free agency. And so, guys, inside linebacker position, you know, of course, the right off the bat, you hear the names for the Alabama guys, Watson and I forgot the other kid's name, but there's some guys that Christian Harris.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what do we look at Jay Lou for linebacker in this draft, in your opinion? Kobe Dean out of Georgia. That's another.
That's what I was just going to say. I think if we go linebacker, they go on with one of them boys out of Georgia if they're still available.
Yeah.
I think that's just proven. They're doing something special down there with their linebackers. If you think about the last like 3 years that have come out of that school, I'm kind of sold like G Witt. Bama's linebackers can probably tend to be a product of playing in the SEC as opposed to being college ready. I mean, being pro ready, as opposed to some of them those other cats. But I really like the Georgia linebackers. If we go inside linebacker, because I'm with you. I think we go inside linebacker and safety is if we draft any defensive players out of these 6. That's the 2 positions that I think when you look at the team on our needs that we really need to go at. Now, again, you always got free agents because and I know we're not gonna talk about free agents this time, but if you get a chance to just look at the top free agents that's still available right now, it's some names out there that you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that player was still available. That you could get to come in. So I mean, that's why they always say it's 2 seasons when it comes to free agents, the beginning and the end. But I definitely like these linebackers out of Georgia if we go with one of those.
Yeah. And I agree with you, Jay Lou. And I'm going to say this real quick to you and I'll let you go. So we also got to think about, we got Monty Rice coming back, who was starting to come on a little bit before he got hurt. And so, but I agree with you, Jay Lou. There's 3 Georgia linebackers out there, man, sitting there: Quay Walker, Channing Tyndale, and which could be quality players for us. But G Witt, talk to me, man. Inside linebacker.
Well, no. I was just going to say I agree with you, both of you on that with the Georgia linebackers, man, because the thing you like about them more than anything else is the overall speed they got. They're great at chasing down ball carriers and actually being able to cover. So I'm with you on that. I think you have to find a safety, and it was one of the reasons why I hated to see my boy Chris Shank get out of here, man, because I thought that finally his last year they finally found a spot for him where he actually flourished in covering tight ends and everything. So now that he's gone, you got to replace that position to me, to have somebody that can cover a tight end, because with today's tight ends, you're going to need that hybrid safety that can cover them as opposed to trying to cover them with a linebacker. And, because they're just too fast for linebackers and they're too big for corners. So you got to find that big safety that can actually cover them and actually make some big difference about it. But the other thing they got to do also, and luckily in this draft, there's plenty to pick from. You got to find another corner. Because we really don't know what Caleb Farley is going to be like. Mike Vrabel is saying he's light years ahead of what he was at this time last year, or even in training camp. But at the same time,
that's not too hard to be like.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That wasn't too difficult considering the fact that he hadn't played football, and he hasn't played football in 2 years. So let's be honest about it. We don't know what we're going to get. And like I said before, when you go back and look at how he played last year when he did get a chance to play, there was nothing really impressive about him other than his size. That's about the only thing. But he had no technique. He couldn't cover anybody, and he definitely couldn't tackle anybody. So really, they're going to have to look deep for a good corner to come out of this draft as well. I don't know if they draft him away and try to pick somebody up as an undrafted free agent, but they definitely need to look at corner.
Yeah, and I agree with you. But as y'all been hearing too, that's all they've been saying about Caleb Farley. He put on size, he looks good, he's getting in pretty good shape. But like you said, it's not hard.
That's not
When
that hard.
he came in last year, hadn't played football in 2 years, being 3 now because he played only a few games this past season. So, a lot to be garnered there is how he's going to turn out.
And you hope all that works out, because if it does, your corner, your backfield is set the next 3 to 4 years.
Oh yeah,
all those guys are young, and that just, I mean, you can be top notch with that. So you really hope that everything you're hearing works out.
Yeah, because when you're talking about your oldest DB being Kevin Byard,
yes. Yeah.
So you have opportunities there to have a stellar secondary for, like you said, at least the next 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing about this defense. I always say, really, you're just trying to fill in spots because your defense is extremely young.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest player on the defense, I think, is what Danico.
Yeah.
It's Danico.
And you gotta look at, you gotta look at that. This is not an old defense at all. So if they can get this offense going, you got an opportunity to do some things in the next 3 to 4 years with this defense.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw another name out there, fellas, for inside linebacker. Devon Loewed out of Utah, 6'3", 235. I think the knock is he ran a 4.65, but you talking about a guy that played safety and receiving high school and converted to linebacker, and he was a 2-time Buckets Award finalist. So he's a baller. He's physical. He's got good hands, and he can cover. And so, you just look at that. What we lost in Jayon Brown was a coverage linebacker, right? We got that in Cunningham now. We got that in David Long Jr., but you got some depth that you can bring in. And a lot of those guys, though, too, you think about, it's going to be playing a lot of special teams as far as the linebackers go. And so, I like him as well. And so let's talk about the secondary. You guys brought that up because some guy, and I know he's not going to be there, but what's Sauce from Cincinnati?
Oh, yeah.
He's not going to be there.
I know he's not going to be there, but man,
just like the corner from Clemson isn't going to be there.
Yeah. Right. But there are some guys there. It's some guys that reminded me of Elijah Molden. You got some guys that can play safety and corner in this draft. And I'm losing my track of my name that I had. Trent McDuffie out of Washington. That's one name. He's small. Mm-hmm. He's 5'11", 195, but he ran a 4.5, but he's got football savvy, and he's in awareness and agility and reliability in the open field with tackling. So that's, to me, it's another Elijah Molden, but you can bring in a guy like that, right, to help play the slot, to help cover the tight end, as G would mention. And so, some things like that. And so, J. Lou, this another class, another position that's deep. This class is defensive backfield.
It's DBs, yes. I'm gonna give you a safety name. I saw Dillon. Dillon must got Dillon. Shout out to you because you got your draft manual ready as well. Because you naming some players that are deep in the draft, my dude. But he mentioned Troy Polamalu's nephew. That's got you think about a safety that can cover the linebackers. He's 6'4", so I got him on my list, and the other one is a guy out of Auburn named Smoke Monday.
Yeah. Smoke Monday. I was gonna talk about him too.
6'2", about 215, I think, is some change.
Yep.
He, again, when you're looking, I think whoever we drafted safety is filling in Cruikshank's role. They're going to be a special teamer, and I think they're going to be that person that takes the Kelseys of the world off the field for you to allow you to still do what you're doing, your defense. So don't be surprised if you don't see one of those two, I think, end up in two-tone blue, just because of what this defense wants to do. I think we're at the point on this defense, and again, I know we need the depth on inside linebacker and all, but they're really in a run it back on the defensive mode. Because again, if you think about it, the defense should only get better. We were injured beginning of, you think about what's my outside linebacker guy?
Weaver. You talking about
Weaver and Bud both were hurt. And so you get them coming back fresh and into the defense. They don't have to learn it again. You can only get better. So I think that they're going to draft defensive players that are going to be on the field to help. And that's why I think you see some of these safeties and stuff like that come in to fit that role.
Exactly. Let me throw a couple more names out there that I was looking at too. Daxton Hill, he might not be there out of Michigan, but he's a guy that can play corner and safety. Another guy, 6 foot, 192 pounds, 4'4" in the 40, got some good range, good speed, and can tackle and can cover, which is huge. Here's somebody else too. And they dubbed this guy another Kevin Byard at MTSU, Reed Blankenship, right?
Yep.
4.5. He runs a 4.5. He's 6'1", 204. And, he All-American, All-Conference USA honors. And so a ball hawk, they say he's a legitimate NFL caliber athlete who can transition to safety, as starting at cornerback and play basketball. And so some more depth out there, man. Some more people out there that we can add to this team to get quality depth. Because like you said, with Byard, he's just getting a little older and he still can play. But I'm just saying, building behind him in that secondary, man, it's going to be critical. It's going to be critical. Right. What if we say that about Byard? Deion said he wanted to draft Smoke Money because of his name alone.
Right. That probably is the best name in the draft.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, him and Sauce. I mean, Sauce.
Sauce is bad too. Hey, let me throw another name out there, man. Out of UT, Delonte Taylor. Yeah, a guy with some blazing speed, physical. At corner, I see. That could be a possibility. Alante Taylor, 6'1", 193, 4'9", can tackle, like to tackle. And some of these guys, man, they describe them as heat-seeking missiles. These safeties out there, man, those guys I would just love to bring in because they physical football players. That people that'll line up in Vrabel's defense and and play like he would like them to play. And so, a lot of guys out there, guys, in this. I just think it's gonna be an interesting draft. It's exciting. It's a couple nights away, and it's gonna be kind of cool to see how the Titans address this draft in this 2022 draft. Excuse me. And so, fellas, one last shout out before we go. And so, tell me, do we see more than one trade by the Titans to get more picks?
I don't think so. And
I will say yes. And I'll say yes and I'm only saying yes if we trade that first one, which is to get out of the first rounder. And I could see him making a crazy swap as you get closer to 4, 5, or 6 to pick up something crazy like a 7, because we don't have nothing. If they really see somebody that they want to get that they don't think can slide through undrafted. So I can say that you could probably see 2 trades come out of this draft. Because again, this is his second lowest amount of draft picks. I think we had one year we had 4, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, that was Harold Landry and Rashad Evans.
Okay, yeah. So this is his second lowest draft pick class. And again, I think this is this draft, his team is in a better position. And and him being John Robinson, still atoning for 2 mistakes he's made in his drafts. He didn't give the 5th-year extension to Conklin, and then we drafted the Panda, and we've been chasing offensive lines since that standpoint. So I think, if you really asked him and held his foot to the fire, he probably regrets the Conklin more than anything, because that move alone, outside of, I know we didn't sign Dennis Kelly and all that, but that move alone probably set this offensive line back by about 2 drafts that you've had to waste draft picks on linemen that haven't worked out. So I think this one, and that's why I think you see him try to get a few more picks. He has 6 right now. I think he would like to be at 8 by the time he's able to draft Tuesday night, just so you can have 2 extra ones to kind of be some projects for your team.
Well, and that's the thing about it with this draft. This is one of those drafts where it's actually for teams that got, you got some team that's got 11 and 12 picks. It's a build your team draft. Yes. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you do it right, it's just like the 2016 draft that we had. That was a build your team draft. He attacked free agency and he just started pulling in players that were going to be potential starters that worked out for him and everything. So this year, I think, like you said, J. Lou, that if he trades out of that first round to pick up a few more draft picks, he's going to be picking up players that's actually, like I said, they're potential starters. Mm-hmm. They're not looking for, especially on the offensive side of the ball, they're not looking for guys to come in and be depth players. They're looking for guys to come in and be starters. Yeah. So that's the talent he's going to be looking for on the offensive side. And like I said, if he keeps 26, I agree. It's going to be an offensive lineman. And it's either going to be, and it might be a center or a center/guard, unless there's one of the good tackles are still available, which is probably not going to happen, at 26. But it's possible. But he definitely needs a left tackle.
Oh yeah,
he needs a left tackle without a doubt.
A right tackle, too.
Now, I know he needs a right tackle, but he's
he
got to
needs a
have a
left.
left tackle because I'm telling you, they really have nobody behind Taylor Lewan.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I agree.
And if he gets hurt, they're gonna be shuffling the deck all season long trying to fill that spot. So they need to find a good athletic left tackle that can play behind Taylor Lewan and really push him to stay healthy and stay on the field. You know, you need a potential starter coming in at left tackle, man, because I'm telling you, you're going to have one.
And as somebody said on this show, he just hadn't been the same since he got caught with them PEDs.
Since he got off the juice.
He just hadn't been the same, man. Shout out to Taylor Lewan, man. So I'm going to throw a couple more names out there for y'all, man. Just be looking out for these names because they could be pretty interesting. Jaquan Brisker, safety, Penn State, a heat-seeking missile. That's how you describe it.
That's a phrase right now, ain't it, man?
And locates the ball and the ball carrier, as well as any defender in the draft. And he pops around. He had 5 career interceptions. I'm just saying, man. Just look, some names that people don't just gonna slip on. This is this depth. So when you say this is a draft to build your team, you are exactly right. The depth in the secondary and the offensive line, and shoot, even the receivers at that point. There is a lot of talent out there that we can really build this football team. And I agree. That's why I think J-Rob makes more than one trade to get a few more picks to build this team. Because like you said, if we look at the positions, if we break down positions by each level, meaning the offensive line, of course, Taylor Lewan, like you said, you got to find his replacement. You got to find him back. Quarterback, we've already talked about that in the league. Derrick Henry, we got to find a replacement for Derrick Henry. He's not getting any younger. Then you've got to add to the receiving core, which, you know, we AJ Brown, Robert Woods, we're going to be there for hopefully if they get AJ signed, which we think, next 4 or 5 years would be great, adding some more talent to that. So in all those positions, we're good in the secondary. You know, linebacker, we know we got to get more depth. And then defensive line, we know we've got to add some more there. We signed Pop-Tart and Naquan back to 1-year deals and got them coming back. And so, fellas, this is going to be very important that we build this draft. So, J. Lou, before we go, J. Lou, you know, he's good about the information he puts out on the show. J. Lou, go ahead and tell everybody relax and pump their brakes on AJ Brown because the deal's going to get done.
Pump your brakes on AJ Brown. So I'll break it down for you. The Titans are the 3rd worst team in the NFL right now as it comes to the salary cap, having just barely $2 million under. That does not include the $9 million that they will get on June 1st from Julio. If you look at history, and we'll see if history still plays its part, every Titan that J-Rob has extended has been the 2nd to 3rd week in July. AJ will get his money. I think it's going to land on about 23 and $1 million. AJ might be asking for 25. I think the Titans will meet him at 23 with some incentives to get it to 25. Because let's not forget the one knock against AJ, he ain't really played a full season. No, so you build that in there to have that, you know, that incentive to get it to 25. But yeah, the deal will get done. He's not going anywhere. Don't worry about Big Jeff. And again, Big Jeff's is a little different because they don't have to extend Big Jeff because they can just pick up the 5th-year option next year and be content since he was a 1st-round pick. But yeah, everybody relax. Number 11 will be on the field in September when we kick off the season down at Nissan Stadium.
Well, do me this one favor if you don't mind.
Yes, sir.
Do me this one favor. If you would, just tell AJ, stay off of Twitter, man.
Well, man, that's that new generation of athletes, man.
I know.
They can't help themselves. Not everything is meant for Twitter.
Yeah.
Not everything is meant for it. Not everything, but yeah, they're gonna get him paid. He's gonna be he's what make Ryan Tannehill go. So yes. he's definitely gonna be in the loop. And again, look at some of the receivers that's still available. That one about, was it Tony? Is that the one from?
Kadarius Toney.
That when I saw that same article, that's a little surprising. And that could be an aggressive move. That if that move is made, of course, it's going to be made between now and Thursday because of the draft. And if that move is made, then that lets you know that the Titans really didn't feel comfortable with a rookie because the guy, Tony he was just a rookie last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So he's still a young player. You got him on that contract. And then that's where I think you see them try to build more with offensive line. If that move is made to bring in a receiver like that, because he becomes your 2-3, and then you got a potential of AJ Woods and him for the next 3-4 years. And that's a solidified wide receiver room right there.
Yeah,
so keep an eye on that one.
Because if that happens, then you move KWI to legitimate fourth receiver.
4, yeah, you move him to 4. Mm-hmm.
Right, and then you got a guy that could, you could really put in the offense and use him in a lot of kind of ways, multiple formations, multiple positions. In Tony, he got a lot of speed, a lot of quickness, a lot of shift to him. Mm-hmm. And so, eventually the Titans are gonna have to change the offensive game, the offensive scheme here. I mean, everybody, I love smash mouth football. I do. I love it. But the era that we in right now in the NFL, everybody got gunslingers, and you see the gunslingers are slinging that rock all over the field. I mean, look at what the Rams did. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that Stafford, could lead a team to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, he's always had a big arm. He just had problems being healthy. Yep. Of course, he played at Detroit.
And he had problems with turning the ball over.
And because we said it last year, and we said it before, just like Baker Mayfield, he'll beat you and he'll get you beat. Yeah. so here. So, guys, I'm gonna throw this prediction out there. This is what I was telling y'all about. This is my prediction. Now, if it's wrong, it's wrong. But don't be surprised if Baker Mayfield is released that they don't bring him in to push Tannehill. That's all I'm saying. I'm signing off.
Hey,
it's worth the shot. Well, because as quiet as it's kept, this is Tannehill's last year with the Titans.
Oh yeah, not without a doubt.
You can get out of his contract a lot easier next year. I mean, he has the highest cap hit in the NFL this year. Let's just think about that. And people, for everybody who's been griping and complaining about Tannehill, let me break it down for you. None of y'all were griping last year when they got Julio. So getting Julio last year, even though it didn't work out, that's the only reason Tannehill's contract is as big as it is this year. Because when you keep pushing it off, you gotta pay the piper eventually. So that's why his is so high this year. And again, had it worked out with Julio, then nobody would be crying about Tannehill's $28 million hit. But this definitely is his last year because you can get out of it this year.
Right. And I agree with you, Will. We got to get a gunslinger that doesn't throw picks. And Dion says, would Tony be a problem with us like he was at Giants? I don't think so. I think we got the locker room.
I think we got the locker room. I think if you look around that Giants coaching staff and that team, period.
That was a hot mess.
Yeah, that was a hot mess to begin with over there.
Yeah. Hey, all you got to do is look at what happened with OBJ, man. OBJ,
yes.
Goes to the Rams. He's the best teammate on the team.
Yep.
Doing everything he can to win. Granted, he was with a contender finally, but you stop and think about that. It was the same thing that happened. I remember back in the day when Corey Dillon went to the Patriots. When everybody was complaining about like, why they get him? He's such a troublemaker in Cincinnati. Well, it turns out all he wanted to do was win.
That's it.
Right.
And it could be the same thing with Kadarius Stoney. He just wants to win, and he realized the position that he's in with the Giants. Like, hey, you can send me somewhere else, and I can be the great teammate I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So, fellas, we appreciate. Thank y'all, everybody that joined us tonight for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Thanks for your comments, your questions, your love, your support of the show.
Yes,
we're gonna come back next Sunday. We're gonna review the draft and see how we did.
Man.
Talk about these draft picks.
Here we go.
And then be looking out for our scheduled review show. We'll be coming back with that. And then, and free agency is not over. There'll be some moves after the draft. And so we'll have a lot to talk about, man. Hey, we back at it. Join us next Sunday, same time, same location. Halftime Adjustments, man. Appreciate y'all. Hey, this is Eddie on there. That's J. Lou, and this G. Whit, man. We are out of here. Peace.